Many Protestants and Anabaptists think of the Lord's Supper simply as a memorial, something we do to bring to mind the sacrifice of Christ, perhaps to root ourselves in that memory or remind ourselves of what Christ did for us, and so on. And so, like, we go to communion and we're reminded of what happened, what Christ did for us, and maybe we're inspired by that, or maybe we're convicted by that. And then we try to take that with us as we go home, but for the most part, we just kind of go home having remembered something, and trying to anchor ourselves in that. But the Eucharist or the Lord's Supper, it's not simply a backwards looking remembrance of something that happened 2,000 years ago. It rather is a place where time collapses and we literally eat and drink the future wedding supper of the Lamb right now. So the way I grew up, we had this central idea that revolved around the phrase, do this in remembrance of me. So we interpret that very directly, according to how the phrase might seem to us in English or also in German, that being kind of our ancestral language. It was more like looking at an old photo or holding like a memorial service for something that happened a very long time ago. So it was by looking backwards into the past that we were united together by what Christ did for us in the past. Christ's sacrifice was a historical event, and our faith was rooted in history. And salvation was more of like a forensic experience. So this all flowed out in this very kind of dry, formulaic sort of way. Christianity, you could say, was reduced to a series of propositions and theories and historical or forensic realities, but there was no immediate reality to Christ's sacrifice and atonement, just a historical fact that we tried to constantly remind ourselves and assure ourselves of. So that's what the Lord's Supper was for me. It was a reminder and a reassurance. That's something that can be impactful, sure, but my whole understanding of reality was about to be completely transformed, uprooted, and overturned as I began to understand the truth about communion and the Lord's Supper, the real secret to the Eucharistic reality of the Christian life. I was encountering divine truths by reading the Holy Fathers, by reading the Church Fathers. And as I did so, I began to understand what it really means to lead somebody to Christ. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to The Sacred Life. As always, I am your host, David Baylor. It's good to have you all. This is a pre-recorded video because I'm actually on vacation right now. So I'm trying to pre-record a few videos for you all, keep you some content while I'm gone. I hope that you enjoy this content, give you something hopefully of value. If you're watching this video, if this is your first time, we definitely appreciate it if you would click that like button, subscribe to our channel, share this video, help us share our channel as well. And of course, I guess you can't really drop super chats, but you can become a channel member. You can't drop super chats, obviously, if I'm not live, but you can like them, subscribe, you can share the channel, share this video. Also check out the links in our description. We have a Patreon on there, and that supports our animation project. Again, you hear me talk about this in all our videos. That's something I'm pretty excited about. A lot of other people are excited about as well. We're putting a whole team together there. I mean, if you're interested in joining the team, let me know, reach out. We definitely especially need people to help with like the production and marketing side of things. And hopefully we'll have some visuals coming out with that, because I'm actually starting the actual, it's hand-drawn animation, and I'm drawing all the animation based kind of on like the style of iconography that you see in my work behind me, which reminds me of our sponsor is Gregorius Iconography. You can check out the link in the description. If you go there and purchase some hand-painted icons or order some custom commissions. If you don't see what you're looking for, you can order anything. As long as it is, within the boundaries, canonical boundaries, something that we are allowed to do as Orthodox iconographers. We try to respect the tradition of the church. You see some examples of the kind of the style, the sort of icons that we produce. Would appreciate it if you go check that out. That's kind of my primary source of income. Gregorius Iconography, in case you're wondering, that is me. So be sure to check all that out, and check out other videos on our channel as well. We appreciate having you all here. So let's go ahead and continue with the topic for this video. So in the Eucharist, time collapses into like a singular eternal moment. Far from looking backwards to an event that happened millennia ago, we engage in the very moment of Christ's sacrifice as it becomes present in the liturgy. Remembrance, or anamnesis in Greek, fundamentally does not mean like this kind of recollection or recalling of a past event, but rather it's a recapitulation of that event. Sometimes people say a representation of Christ's sacrifice. I'm going to use the word recapitulation instead. I think it kind of is the same idea, or at least it can be used. There's certainly overlap semantically. So let's start with the word itself. In ancient Greek, especially in the Septuagint, the Greek Old Testament that the apostles quoted, that's quoted in the New Testament, anamnesis, that's the word that's translated as remembrance. It's never about like a passive mental recall. Rather, it's an active, powerful making present of a saving event. So take, for example, Leviticus 24:7, where the showbread is placed before the Lord as an anamnesis, as a remembrance. So it's not there to jog God's memory or to remind them, like just simply to remind him of something. Rather, it's making the offering stand before him as a living reality, effective right then and there. Or in Numbers 10:10, where trumpets are blown over the sacrifices as an anamnesis, the sound doesn't remind God of the past. Rather, it recapitulates this event that is being commemorated, making it present and potent before God. I know that can kind of be confusing, but this is the same language that Jesus uses at the Last Supper, where he says, "Do this in remembrance of me." The remembrance there is anamnesis, so do this as an anamnesis for me is another way that you can say that. He's not telling us to think fondly of a distant memory, or he's not simply telling us to remember what he did or what he was about to do in this case. He's commanding us rather to recapitulate his sacrifice, to make it present again in a way that unites us to it directly, which is what we're doing in the Eucharist, why it is that we say the Eucharist is the flesh and blood of Christ that we're partaking of. So the fathers knew this intimately. Justin Martyr, for example, in the 2nd century, writes that we do the Eucharist in anamnesis of his incarnation, passion, and resurrection, not simply as like a mental reminder, but as a way to make those events real and active among us. Cyril of Jerusalem echoes this in his catechetical lectures, saying we offer Christ sacrificed for our sins, making his passion present upon the altar. So it's not like a repetition or re-crucifixion, rather it's recapitulation, the eternal sacrifice breaking into our time. And here's where it gets even more profound. Every liturgy is the Passover. Jesus didn't choose Passover. He didn't choose the Passover meal by accident. It's not a coincidence. The symbolism there is pretty striking, really. The old Passover wasn't about remembering Egypt from a safe distance. The lamb was slain again. The blood marked the doorpost that night, and the angel of death passed over right then, as if the Exodus was happening afresh. And that's echoed even in the language. They're not saying this stuff happened in the past or this stuff happened to our fathers. They're saying like, as you did for us, or as you do for us. So Exodus 12:14, again, it calls it an anamnesis, if you're reading it in the Greek Septuagint, a feast throughout generations where the saving event is made present. It's recapitulated. In the Eucharist, Christ is the new Passover lamb, slain once for all, but made present every time we gather. The liturgy recapitulates the upper room, Golgotha, and the empty tomb, not as like a forensic history, but as an immediate and present reality. So Hebrews 13:8 seals it. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. His saving acts aren't locked in AD 33. They're eternally efficacious, bursting into the now. But it doesn't stop there either. The Eucharist is also a remembrance of the future. I know that can seem like a contradiction, but stay with me here. It's an eschatological heart that absolutely shattered my Mennonite assumptions. So Luke 22:16 has Jesus saying, "I will not eat it again until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." The supper points forward to the marriage supper of the Lamb in Revelations 19:9. that great banquet in the age to come. Yet in every liturgy, we hear, "Blessed are those invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb," in the present tense. We're not waiting for the kingdom, we're tasting it, we're experiencing it, we're entering into it right then and there. St. Nicholas Cabasilas calls the liturgy the medicine of immortality because it gives us the life of the age to come right now. St. Irenaeus says it's the new oblation announcing the future kingdom. So for me, this was really a turning point. My first Orthodox communion, it wasn't a symbolic reassurance, which is, all I had in the past as a Mennonite. It was terror and joy, the stepping into my own resurrection and by the partaking of Christ's resurrection. I tasted the feast that hasn't fully happened yet, but which is happening in every liturgy, in every Eucharist, the antidote to death before the final victory. The anaphora prays remembering his second and glorious coming, because we're making the parousia present in advance. So if your communion feels kind of like flat or optional, it's because we've lost, or it's because our traditions have lost this truth. The Eucharist is where past, present, and future collapse and collide in one saving reality. The recapitulation of the cross and the foretaste of the kingdom. It's not a memorial, it's eternity breaking in. So come and see.